Ticker is a 24/7 news channel. Essentially, we operate from our studios here in Melbourne and also in New York, right around the world. So we broadcast from here. We make a lot of content each day.
We're a news platform and we're also a commercial platform. So we interview a wide variety of guests.
Day to day, we're working with clients to produce content for their platforms, as well as our own articles and anything that's happening in the world of business, finance, technology as well happens to be one of my favorites.
In the real beginning, Ticker was extremely laborious. It was extremely manual. We had no idea about Cuez or the automator. We were using vMix and trying to remember which button to hit on the pad at the correct time. It was an absolute nightmare, and we'd all leave the production with our head in our hands. So when we discovered that Tinkerlist could actually not just create the content for us, as in the written word, but also they had this thing called Cuez and the automator that allowed us to upload from anywhere and then to be able to take that content and download it into vMix and into our production. It was just an incredible change for us that made it a lot simpler, and it meant that we could adjust our entire operations to match that goal. I like the user-based model and the concept of it being a list and then essentially adding all of the different components. I've come from software where you have all these different commands that you have to know, otherwise your production goes haywire. That was chaos, it was a nightmare. From that, we learned really quickly we needed to change the production workflow to make sure that we had something that was really simple for everybody across, from the presenters through to the producers and of course studio control.
Coming from experience of using vMix and all these other sort of manual switching platforms, it's a huge change and it's so convenient. Like, I can't believe I basically sit down and the guests essentially do everything, all the hard work. They just hit that button, everything's in there, and there's nothing I really have to worry about.
It's been amazing to have such a comprehensive space to align, double check, move things around, download and upload overlay, which is another thing I love to do, as well as graphics, backgrounds.
We wanted something which was a lot stronger and something which was just an easier workflow for everybody. Because we are a new broadcaster, relatively new, this wasn't about cutting costs. It was about how much more could we do? How many more hours of content could we create with the number of staff we have? So we were able to utilize the technology to allow us to recreate what the workflow and the output of a bigger organization has without having to have the same number of staff. If you think about the number of guests that we have, it's a huge number, and we have had up to 70 on some days. And in order to do that, you have to have everybody working to the same structure. And one great thing about Tinkerlist, and particularly the automator, is it creates a process. And once you have a process, it allows everybody to deliver it, meaning that we could automate the entire workflow and production. So the presenter sitting behind me here in the studio using the laptop is able to use spacebar to hit and make those commands happen. So that took a production of 3 or 4 people down to 1 or 2, which was a huge saving for us.
Some incredible automation has been designed in order to take all the information our clients provide us with and then to distill it down and bring it right through to the teleprompter.
For me, it's about the interview auto mixing and the auto director. So that was a huge change for us. So in order for the presenter to be able to hit spacebar to get into an interview card, being able to have a system where it can detect who is speaking and to put that person on camera has been huge. Again, allowing us to scale up the number of interviews we do without having to check that there's a director available or a production team available. It means that it's content first. That completely changes the game.
Feels like I come in and there's new technology that just makes things so much faster. So you have transitions built in, you have text scrolling in, you have videos popping up, backgrounds changing, everything's there for you.
It allowed us to focus on improving the assets and the elements as opposed to worrying about the overall workflow.
Learning Tinkerlist, it was basically like learning to ride a bike, right? You're shown once and it's super convenient.
We've had teams in Singapore, we've had teams through Europe, we've had teams in the United States. So we have been doing a lot of Zoom meetings where we've been sharing screens and teaching how that works, and also face-to-face by flying over and sitting with them in their studios and news hubs to be able to make sure that they are across it as well.
Well, what's interesting about this is I've actually had to teach Tinkerlist to a few people as I've gone along, and it's always quite simple to do. I say to them, it looks intimidating, but it's actually quite simple once you get your head around each card and the fact that you can edit on the fly and adjust and change. It's a beautiful thing. It's nice to have something that is easy to use, hopefully accessible, hopefully earnest.
I'm always surprised just by how worthwhile these processes are for, startup companies like Ticker. So it's easy for us and we can create so much more content using these simple processes.
Tinkerlist has been a game changer for Ticker. We continue to work on it. We continue to evolve. They've been really great at tailoring it to our needs to make sure that the way that we operate for how many broadcasts we make per day, whether they're live, whether they're pre-recorded, allows us to be able to build in a lot of structure, but also a lot of flexibility. And that is just so important for the way that news organizations are operating today. I think it's about taking what you're doing and having a look and saying, how could this be done better? Tinkerlist allows you to make sure that you have more people in front of camera. I have this saying in TV, which is everyone who works in television does so to be on camera one way or another. And so therefore, in order for that to be the case, Tinkerlist allows you to put most of your people in front of the camera. After all, that's what we're judged by.